In the vast emptiness where human territory meets the infinite black, a lone sentinel stands watch ... at horizon's edge, the deep space monitoring station floating at the boundary of known space. Captain Alana Vasquez had grown accustomed to the silence. 12 years of scanning dead sectors, filing reports no one would read, and listening to cosmic whispers that meant nothing. The universe beyond the frontier was supposed to be empty, quiet, predictable until that fateful Tuesday. It began with a flicker on her quantum sensors. So faint she nearly missed it during her morning coffee ritual. But as Elena adjusted the sensitivity, the anomaly didn't disappear. Instead, it grew stronger. Something massive was moving through subspace, creating ripples in dimensions humans barely comprehended. When Lieutenant James Park rushed onto the observation deck with wide eyes, Elena knew this was no equipment malfunction. "Captain, you need to see this," he breathed, his voice tight with controlled panic. "Every sensor array from here to the Perseus arm is going insane." The combined data from 17 monitoring stations revealed a pattern that chilled Elena's blood. Hundreds of objects approached from beyond the galactic plane, regions where nothing should exist, moving with military precision. Their energy signatures were twisted, as if the ships themselves had been fundamentally altered by their journey through the dark. The emergency channels erupted with chatter as fear crept into the voices of frontier veterans who had faced pirates, raiders, and worse. Yet something about these approaching vessels struck a primal chord of dread in even the most hardened souls. The ships were human in origin. That much the computers confirmed. But they matched no known configurations. Ghosts from another age. Then came the identification that changed everything. The lead vessel's transponder still transmitted its original designation beneath layers of interference. Huey's Prometheus, flagship of Expeditionary Fleet 7. A fleet that had vanished 300 years ago while pursuing an unknown enemy beyond the edge of mapped space. A fleet long declared lost with all hands. When the fleet emerged from subspace, they appeared as titans rising from an ocean of darkness. The vessels were massive, far larger than their original specifications. Their hulls bore scars, like claw marks from god-sized beasts, while strange crystalline growths sprouted from their surfaces, pulsing with bioluminescent light. These ships had been to hell and been changed by the journey. The Prometheus moved forward, its original human architecture barely recognizable beneath terrible modifications. Weapon systems of unknown origin bristled from every surface, making the ship appear less like a vessel and more like a living organism that had learned to swim through space. When transmission cut through the static, Elena heard a voice that shouldn't exist. "This is Admiral Marcus Chon of Expeditionary Fleet 7. We have returned from beyond the rim. Humanity must prepare. They are coming." The voice was human but wrong, as if multiple throats were speaking in unison. "Admiral," Chon revealed a horrifying truth. While 300 years had passed on Earth, the fleet had experienced much longer in the dark places between galaxies. They had tracked an enemy called the Devourers to their spawning grounds and won a victory, but at terrible cost. Now the main swarm had detected them and followed their trail back. Humanity had perhaps one solar rotation, 1 year to prepare. What stood before Elena was no longer just a fleet. It was an ecosystem of war. The crews had transformed themselves, integrating alien biology and technology to survive in realms where light had never touched. They had become what was necessary to fight monsters in the dark between stars. "We are your shield," Admiral Chun told them, "but we are also your reminder of the cost of survival." As Alana studied the tactical display, showing 217 transformed ships, each one suspended between machine and organism, she made a decision that would change humanity's fate. "Admiral Chun, Horizon's Edge is at your disposal." We'll relay your warning to Earth Command immediately. But we need more than warnings. We need to know how to fight them. Your weapons will not penetrate their bioships. Your shields will not stop their harvester beams, Chun responded with brutal honesty. Your strategies assume enemies that think like you, fight like you. The Devourers are something else entirely. They are hunger given form. Entropy with purpose. When the view screen activated, Elena gasped. Admiral Chun stood at the center of a chamber that looked more organic than mechanical. Tendrils of crystalline material connected him to various stations. His uniform remained recognizably military, but his skin had a subtle luminescence, and his eyes held depths that seemed infinite. "Do not fear us, Captain," Chun assured her, touching his chest over his heart. "We are still human where it counts. We remember Earth. We remember why we left. We remember what we're protecting." That memory had kept them sane when everything else tried to drive them mad. Now they had returned to teach humanity to evolve, or watch it be devoured. Elena straightened in her chair, steeling herself for what was to come. "Then teach us, Admiral. Whatever the cost, we'll pay it." Chun's expression, alien as it had become, showed something like approval. "Contact Earth Command. Tell them the lost fleet has returned. Tell them we bring weapons and knowledge from the dark." His next words echoed through Horizon's Edge like a death knell for the old world. The age of comfortable ignorance is over. The age of transformation begins now. 6 months passed in a blur of desperate preparation. Earth's major cities now bristled with defensive installations based on hybrid technology from Fleet 7. Captain Elena Vasquez, now stationed at the newly constructed Fortress Luna, had herself undergone the crystalline modifications, accepting alien biology into her body to interface with the new weapon systems. Thin lines of bioluminescent material ran along her arms, connecting her nervous system directly to the fortress's sensors. She could feel space itself, sense disturbances in dimensions humans had only theorized about before. The transformation of humanity's military had been swift and brutal, with volunteers undergoing modifications to operate the new defense systems. "They're close," Admiral Chun said quietly, his transformed senses reaching further than any human instrument. 3 days, perhaps 4. The Vanguard will test our defenses first. When they find resistance, the main swarm will converge. Around Luna, 3,000 ships waited, a mixture of traditional human vessels and biomechanical hybrids. Below, evacuation ships still launched from Earth, carrying those who couldn't fight to colony worlds. It wouldn't save them if humanity failed here, but it might buy time. "Tell me about the enemy," Elena asked Chun. "Not the tactical data, not their weapons. Tell me what they are." Chun's expression darkened, the weight of centuries visible in his eyes. "Imagine hunger that has existed since the universe was young. Not hunger for food, but for complexity itself. The Devourers feed on organized matter, on the patterns that separate order from chaos. They see a civilization, and where we see beauty, achievement, life, they see only fuel for their endless consumption." He gestured to the tactical display, showing the approaching swarm. "They are not evil in the way we understand evil. They simply are. They exist to unmake what the universe has made, to return everything to base elements they absorb and carry with them. We've tracked the remnants of 10,000 civilizations in their wake, each one reduced to quantum foam and memory." Elena shuddered despite her modifications, which helped her process the cosmic horror without her mind breaking at the implications. "How did you survive so long against them?" "We learned to think in ways that hurt," Chun replied. "Human logic, human tactics, they mean nothing to creatures that exist partially outside our dimensional framework. We had to break our minds and rebuild them, integrate thought patterns from species the Devourers had consumed, whose knowledge echoed in the quantum signatures of their destroyers. There, Conversation was interrupted by Lieutenant Park's voice over the comm. "Admiral, Captain, we're detecting subspace distortions at the edge of the system." "It's starting." Alana felt it through her modifications before the sensors confirmed it. Space itself seemed to recoil as the first of our ships emerged from dimensions humanity barely understood. They didn't look like ships at all, but massive organisms, tentacles of dark matter trailing behind them, mouths that could swallow moons gaping at their fronts. They moved without regard for physics, sliding between dimensions like sharks through water. "All stations. Battle readiness," Elena commanded, her voice carrying across the entire defense fleet through the crystalline network. "Remember your training. Trust your modifications. We fight not just for Earth, but for the concept of existence itself." The first engagement lasted 12 minutes and cost humanity 300 ships, but the Devourer vanguard was repelled. Their bioships writhed as human weapons found purchase in dimensions they hadn't expected resistance from. Elena felt each loss through the network, experienced the final moments of modified humans whose consciousness briefly touched hers before winking out. Chun stood perfectly still, his awareness extended across the entire battlefield. They're learning, adapting. Each engagement teaches them more about our modifications. We have hours before they develop counters. Then we make those hours count, Elena replied, accessing the deepest levels of the fortress's systems, protocols. Chun had insisted on, but hoped never to use, Operation Chrysalis. Chun's expression grew grim. "Are you certain there's no other way?" "We always knew this moment would come. The modifications we've undergone, they're just the first step. To truly fight the Devourers, humanity must evolve beyond its current form. Chrysalis will transform every modified human into something closer to what we became in the dark." His words carried the weight of terrible necessity. "We'll lose much of what makes us human, but we'll gain the power to protect those who remain." Elena thought of Earth. Below, billions of unmodified humans going about their lives, trusting their protectors to keep the monsters at bay. She thought of her sister, her nephew, everyone she'd known before taking this post. They deserved to remain human, to never know the cosmic horror that lurked between stars. "Do it," she commanded. When Sean initiated Operation Chrysalis, every modified human across the solar system felt the change begin. The crystalline material in their bodies activated fully, spreading like a living web through flesh and bone. Elena gasped as her consciousness expanded, touching not just the fortress's systems, but the fabric of space itself. She could feel the Devourer's hunger, understand their alien thoughts, perceive the universe as they did. The transformation was agony and ecstasy combined. She watched her hands change, becoming something between flesh and living crystal. Her thoughts multiplied, processing information in ways that transcended human logic. Around her, the command center reformed, technology and biology merging into something entirely new. When the main swarm arrived, humanity was ready. The transformed defenders met them in dimensions humans had never named, fought with weapons that existed as much in thought as in reality. Elena found herself commanding not just ships, but concepts, wielding paradoxes like swords, using the nature of existence itself as a shield. The battle raged for 7 days across multiple dimensional planes. Earth's skies burned with colors that had no names as reality itself became a battlefield. The transformed humans fought with a fury born of protecting something precious, something they had voluntarily separated themselves from to preserve. On the 8th day, the Devourers retreated, not defeated, but discouraged. The effort required to consume humanity had exceeded the energy they would gain. They slid back into the dark between stars. Seeking easier prey among the cosmos. Elena stood on Luna's observation deck, her transformed body barely recognizable as human. Beside her, Sean watched the enemy disappear into dimensions beyond perception. "We've won this encounter," But they'll remember, he said solemnly. They'll carry knowledge of us into the dark. Elena's voice, now a harmony of tones, carried acceptance. Then we'll be ready. We've become something new, something that stands between humanity and the dark. We are no longer fully human, but we are humanity's guardians. Below on Earth, billions of humans continued their lives, unaware of how close they'd come to extinction. Transformed defenders maintained their vigil, forever changed, forever watching. They'd become the legends they had once thought were lies, protectors dwelling in the space between human and other. In the years that followed, humanity expanded under the protection of its transformed guardians. New generations grew up knowing that monsters existed in the dark, but so did those who had sacrificed their humanity to fight them. The legend of Fleet 7 became a reminder that sometimes, to preserve what we are, some must become what we are not. The universe remained vast and hostile, filled with horrors that defied comprehension. But humanity had evolved, adapted, survived. And in the dark between stars, the transformed watched and waited, ready for whatever emerged from the void. Elena's final log entry, transmitted to Earth's archives, reads simply, "We are no longer what we were, but we remember what we protect." The dark holds no fear for those who have become darkness to fight it. Humanity endures, and we endure for humanity. This is our choice, our gift, our eternal watch. And so it came to pass that humanity's greatest heroes were those who surrendered their humanity itself, becoming the shield that protected our species from cosmic horrors beyond imagination. Their sacrifice reminds us that true guardianship sometimes requires transformation, and that in the face of oblivion, adaptation is not surrender, but the ultimate expression of defiance. The transformed ones still watch over us today, patrolling the dark between stars where monsters dwell. We may never comprehend what they have become, but we understand what they have preserved, our right to remain human in an inhuman universe.